I still remember the night my aunt's eyes turned black as coal, and she whispered to me, "You're next." I grew up in a small village surrounded by dense woods. My family was poor, but we always had each other. My aunt, however, was a different story. She was my mom's sister, and she lived with us. She was always mean and bitter, complaining about everything. We tried to avoid her as much as possible. One night, when I was about 10 years old, my mom fell ill. She had a high fever and was bedridden. My aunt took care of her, but I noticed she was acting strange. She would whisper to my mom in a low, raspy voice, and my mom would shiver with fear. As the night wore on, my aunt's behavior became more erratic. She paced back and forth in the room, muttering to herself. Her eyes seemed to gleam with an unsettling intensity. I tried to stay away from her, but she would call me to her side, saying she needed my help. That's when I saw it. Her eyes turned black as coal, and she whispered to me, "You're next." I was paralyzed with fear. I didn't know what to do. Her gaze felt like it was piercing through me, and I felt a chill run down my spine. In that moment of terror, I remembered the old stories my grandmother used to tell about strange happenings in our village. I gathered my courage and bolted out of the room, running to find the village elder. I told him everything, my voice shaky but determined. The elder listened carefully and gathered a few villagers to confront my aunt. They stormed into our house, finding her standing over my mom, a dark aura surrounding her. She turned, her eyes still black, and tried to flee, but the villagers were quick. They restrained her and demanded to know what she was doing. My aunt shrieked, her voice filled with rage and fear. "You don't understand. I can give us power. I can bring our family wealth." The villagers, having heard enough, dragged her out of our home. Word spread quickly, and soon the entire village gathered. They accused her of witchcraft, recalling the strange happenings that had plagued our community for years. The villagers, fueled by anger and a desire for justice, interrogated my aunt, demanding to know the extent of her dark magic. At first, she resisted, but as the questioning continued, she began to crack. With a twisted grin, she confessed to a string of unexplained crimes that had plagued our village for years: the missing livestock, the strange noises in the night, and the unexplained illnesses that had afflicted many. The villagers gasped in shock and horror as my aunt's confessions poured out. They couldn't believe that one of their own had been responsible for so much suffering. The village elder, his face stern and unforgiving, asked my aunt why she had committed such atrocities. Her response sent chills down my spine. "I was consumed by darkness," she spat. "I wanted power, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get it." The villagers, outraged and heartbroken, decided that my aunt's crimes were too severe to be punished by mere imprisonment. They decided to banish her from the village, forcing her to live on the outskirts of our community, alone and shunned. As the villagers led my aunt away, I watched as they reacted with a mix of emotions. Some were angry, shouting curses and insults at her as she passed. Others were sad, tears streaming down their faces as they realized that one of their own had been capable of such evil. But most were relieved, grateful that the darkness that had haunted our village for so long had finally been vanquished. As the villagers turned their backs on my aunt, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. I knew that I would never have to fear her again, and that our village was finally safe. If you are struggling with your own fears and doubts, I want you to know that you're not alone. We all face darkness in our lives, whether it's the evil actions of others or our own inner demons. But I want to encourage you to face those fears head-on, just as I did. Don't be afraid to seek help, whether it's from a trusted friend or family member, or from a professional. And don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, even if it means standing alone. Remember, the darkness will always try to consume us, but it's up to us to fight back. We have the power to choose how we react to fear, and we have the power to overcome it. And I want to invite you to come back to my channel, where we'll explore more stories of overcoming fear and finding courage in the face of darkness. Together, we can face our fears and emerge stronger, braver, and more resilient than ever before.